Well, we have another story, and this one has some very interesting aspects to it I think you'll enjoy. Galesteo befriends Fraidy cat Frida. This book is dedicated to my best buddy Donnie, who suddenly passed over the rainbow with a heart attack. I miss him, the bees miss him, as do all the neighbors who so enjoyed his visits to their yards and porches. The bees decided it would be good for me to have a new playmate, companion, to keep me from being so sad. They decided to take in a new cat, which they call Frida, and I call her Fraidy cat. This cat, Frida, only 5 years old, was dumped in a wild field, and a nice lady in our community saved her. The bees thought it would work having another rescued cat like Donnie and I had been before the bees adopted us. So my challenge became obvious. Befriend Frida. Want some temptations? Now it all began for me since the bees introduced Frida to me. So what is the problem? What a fraidy cat she was, running and hiding under our dining room table. She snuck out at night to eat, and afterwards I let her have some of my temptations. She responded to my treat and began coming out into the kitchen for food and always looking for more of my treats. Then back to under the table began to be her basic behavior. She would just stare at me when I went to see her under the table. Then a few changes began too, like running into the bees' bedroom, hiding under their bed when they had left the house for a while, though she ran back under the table once the bees came home and were looking for her. Sometimes Mr. B managed to pick her up and have her sit on his lap for a friendly visit. She would last maybe 4 minutes before running back to her hiding spot. When I went up to greet her, she stepped away as if to say, "Stay away from me." And yet we began sitting 6 feet apart, staring at each other, especially in the kitchen. Morning breakfast started things changing when she went up to the bees wanting to be pet, pet, pet. I was busy eating and hoping for more temptations in my cat food as a reward for being kind to her. We even rubbed noses a few times in front of the bees. The tide had changed. Our nightly visits were private. The bees could only guess that we got along together. Frida slept on the couch in the living room, and I shared it at times or slept on one of the chairs. I also always visit the bees at night, snuggling and cuddling with them. They discovered Frida sitting in the doorway staring at us. Then she took off back to the table. Suddenly, Frida began her own investigations. She started going in all the rooms of the house. She ran back under the table if she noticed the bees watching her, but I got to see her as she checked things out. Some of the chairs were very inviting, as I already knew. One of our favorite rooms is the sunroom, which is a room with lots of sun and places for us to sleep during the day. She discovered the sofa where Donnie used to sleep a lot and where I go every day when it's warm. Now we are both venturing in for our afternoon naps. Mrs. B likes to take Frida for walks out inside the house. She picks her up and Frida actually snuggles in her arms as she takes her from room to room. I usually just sit there staring at her, knowing how she is showing being less afraid. When sitting on the sofa, the bees hold me in their laps, letting me cuddle and be pet. She now has begun watching, sitting in the room, not under the table. But any sudden movement has her jumping and running all over to get to her spot under the table. Now I'm waiting for a magic moment, a moment sharing, not staring, rolling, not running, and Frida being friendly, not fraidy. The moment I was hoping for didn't occur easily. Suddenly she began running at me, then batting me with her paws, no claws out, and then running off. I just sit there and wherever I am and stare at her as she takes off running. Now my true challenge is to carefully create casual conditions in which she actually accepts without running away. Calm down, Frida. Eat my food, look out the window, and let the bees pet, pet, pet. Now I'll admit that the back porch, not the sun porch, is my favorite place. I have a cat throne where I sit enjoying the sun and sharing outside. See, we each need our own space. Frida has the space under the table with a cat bed and a cat scratcher. The bees are planning a new cat house for the outdoors that Frida and I will share. It will give us a cozy connection like my other cat house did with Donnie. We are getting comfortable with each other inside of a few feet of space. The bees reward me with my favorite treats, temptations, which Frida has now discovered and loves to eat. The best part is that the bees applaud us when we greet each other in the morning, rubbing noses like true friends. I completed my challenge to befriend Fraidy Cat Frida. She lets me lick her face, and she responds by sitting still, wanting more. She still spends time under her table, but no more avoiding me or the bees. I have befriended friendly Frida.